Welcome to Pushing 40-Bit Gaming, where we're going to talk about Descent Freespace today. So in the past we've done Crysis and Darksiders, and now we're to Descent Freespace. It's also called Descent Freespace The Great War, often just called Freespace.
Who are you?
Oh, and I'm Cynic. Yeah.
Who am I?
I figure this far in, everybody that's watching knows who we are.
That's probably a question for your therapist.
I'm Frosty.
And I'm Klipper. So yeah, Freespace.
Yeah.
The funny thing is they call it Descent Freespace, which is total like brand recognition. Like it had nothing to do with Descent, but it was like, hey, if you like Descent, here's a game that's nothing like it.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, basically it was that the team came completely from the Descent team. So it's an offshoot from Parallax Software, and they're the guys that made Descent. Mm-hmm. So they split off, they made their own thing. They were just going to call it Freespace, and there was like a copyright infringement thing because there was a group that was doing like disk management software and stuff that was called Freespace, and so they put Descent Freespace on there just to like avoid that problem.
Funny.
Yeah, but you know, that's the way it is. So it was made in 1998 by Volition Software. Again, they're from Parallax. Parallax just did Descents, whereas Volition, you might know some of the stuff they did. Freespace 1 and 2, Sumner 1 and 2, Red Faction, The Punisher, Saints Row, Agents of Mayhem. They've done a lot.
Klipper and I love the
Saints Row is a fantastic game.
I've never finished one of those. I've played a couple of them, but just a little bit.
They're fun.
They are good.
Yeah.
I was going to say it's a wholesome GTA 5. It's not.
Yeah, it's really not.
No.
No, it's about the same thing. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But that's about it for Freespace. The only other interesting tidbit about the name is that apparently in the game we'll get to, they have subspace, but they were going to call it Freespace instead of subspace, and so the name came from this idea of, we're just going to use like wormholes as Freespace, and then they completely rebranded it in the game but didn't change the name.
See, and I always thought it was Freespace because Descent was in like the mining facilities and whatnot, and now you're in Freespace.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I thought, but granted, when I played the game the first time, I didn't look into that. Like, it was just a fun game that we had on our Pentium 2, right?
Yeah.
Did the internet exist? I guess it existed.
Yes, it existed,
but
but
you didn't have it in your house. So.
Yeah, it was dial-up, or you had to go to a library, or
Yeah.
everyone's looking at us like, what? And it wasn't in your house?
Yeah.
So, Freespace itself falls into like the arcade simulation, what you say?
Yeah.
Nothing too like real intense about it as far as, but there were some elements that really brought the sim in. I thought, like energy management.
Yeah.
That was super cool, but it wasn't.
Key bindings can get pretty complicated. There's lots of stuff you can do.
Yeah. The key binding pages.
Much, even if you're playing with a joystick or a keyboard, or I'm sorry, a joystick or a controller, you want a keyboard too because there's lots of extra stuff you have to have.
Let's dive right into that. How did you play it?
Oh man! So I was keyboard all the way. Just wanted to see what it was like. I only changed a couple.
Full keyboard.
Full keyboard.
You didn't use a mouse.
I didn't. No mouse. Wow. So I only changed a couple things from the defaults. I just changed. Basically, I inverted the stick the way it would normally go. Right. So if I'm using a joystick, I like to pull back to go up.
Sure.
But on the keyboard, I like it the other way around. So I flipped that, and then instead of having it be the entire numpad, I used just the top 4, like you would with the arrow keys.
Okay.
So I switched the 5 and the 2, basically. Other than that, I did everything default just to see what it was like, and by the end of playing it, my left forearm felt like it was going to wake up in the night and murder me.
So, full keyboard.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I still can't get over it.
It was interesting. It was fun.
Crazy.
Well, good for you. So I did joystick. I used this guy right here.
I have that same one.
Yeah, a modern joystick. For our centerpiece today, I brought out this. That's the joystick I played Freespace on originally. That's my original.
It's very old.
Precision Pro.
Dusty.
It is dusty. Well, that's vintage dust. I didn't want to really get rid of that. Your
Grandma's
standard
ashes.
Gross. Standard, like the 15-pin joystick connector. I tried to find adapters to keep using it, but I couldn't. And Frosty, I do believe this is your original copy.
That is my copy of Freespace. Yeah, still existing. That was, I don't know if we talked about this in our first episode when we were talking about our backgrounds, but that was actually the first game that we got with our PC. The first time we got a PC was we got Freespace. So it probably was in 98, maybe 99. I don't remember for sure, but
I picked my copy up for
old.
$10 on Black Friday at CompUSA.
Nice.
Wow.
And I've since lost the original in one of the moves and whatnot, of course.
Yeah.
But
I didn't try installing from this. I doubt it's readable. I just have it on Steam.
So yeah, let's get into how we actually got it to work. So
We didn't?
we didn't, to be honest.
I did. I didn't have problems.
None?
So straight Steam.
Straight Steam with the one tweak that you told me, which was that I needed to run it as admin one time to make sure that it would save the config.
Yeah.
After that, everything was fine.
No compatibility mode, nothing.
Nothing special.
Mine acted like it was working, but there were a few missions where you get to where it would just bug out, and it was always when a ship had to go to a jump node.
Mm-hmm.
The ship would get there, and it wouldn't like be lined up correctly, and the ship would just sit there like spinning around in a circle. For
Please tell me you
eternity.
recorded it.
I did.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
Yeah, I've got some footage of it. But the first time that happened, I like verified the Steam files, didn't fix it. I uninstalled it, reinstalled it, and then it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
But later in the game, it happened again, and I couldn't fix it. Like I just couldn't get past it. So I cheated. The last 3 missions, I think, I just watched on YouTube.
Okay.
Couldn't get it to run. That's crazy.
I will admit to it. Yeah, it wouldn't get past it. I left it there, and like, you know how you can, I don't know if you guys knew this, you can change the time dilation in game.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I sped it up to the max, whatever it was, and I left it there. It was at 80 minutes game time.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
ship was still sitting there just spinning. Nothing happened.
Which I thought was a cool feature. The actual how long you've been in that mission clock.
Yeah.
The mission clock in the bottom right corner. Because I'd be fighting and I'd be like, man, it's been, 3 minutes is all. I guess it's not been that long.
Yeah.
So I did a little bit different. I couldn't get it to go. I installed it off of GOG. I used was it GOG or Steam? No, it was Steam. Sorry. I used Steam. And I get to the point where it says enter your call sign for your pilot, and I typed my name in, and it would never take it. Like, it wouldn't accept any keyboard input, anything. So that was my fault start I had with it. So I installed Freespace 2, and then some lovely modding community made the campaign for Freespace 1 run in Freespace 2. So I actually played Freespace 2.
Well, the bugs I was having, I looked up, if there were solutions to them, if other people were having, and pretty much all the answers were just play it on Freespace 2. And I think that really is the solution, because it's old. You can't really increase the resolution or the textures or anything. It would have been better to just play it through Freespace 2.
There was one drawback to Freespace 2, is my HUD didn't scale. So I was playing it at 4K, everything. My center reticle was about that big on my screen, and I couldn't see a thing.
Okay, so this game taught me that it is apparently pronounced reticle. My entire life, I've been saying reticule.
Isn't that what you do to someone you don't like? You ridicule them?
No. So I literally looked it up when the pilot was like, look in your reticle. I was like, what? I Google it, and they're like, reticule, a common mispronunciation for reticle. I was like, oh, man. My whole life I've been mispronouncing that
Thanks,
word.
video games. You taught us something new.
Yeah.
So yeah, you took English in college, right?
Supposedly, sure, yeah.
So video games teach you more than college. That's the takeaway from today's episode, folks.
I like it.
So yeah, so my HUD was small, but I played through the whole game, not a single crash, ran flawless.
Nice.
Would have been better. Yeah.
I don't think mine ever crashed. I thought it had once, and it was that I was too dumb. It was early on. I didn't realize that the mission was over. And so, like, the ship I was supposed to escort kept moving, and then eventually got to this place, and it just kept going in circles. When I got there, I was like, what am I waiting for it to do? And then she was like, screw it, and I just jumped out, and I was like, congratulations, mission well done, right? I was like, oh, I've just been following this big ship in the void for no reason.
And for what it's worth, it was never super clear when you were clear to jump out. Not on every mission.
Sometimes it would pop up in your objectives,
right.
and you can jump, and other times it didn't.
And sometimes it would say no orders, right? And so I was like, well, I guess I'm done. Jump out. How did you abandon the mission or something? I was like, oh my gosh.
They could have worked on that a bit better.
So jumping forward a bit in the story, there's a scene that's basically the end of the game, right? Mine got into a scenario where I didn't know what to do next, and I thought I was done. So I was like, well, I guess I'll just jump home. And it basically, I found out this way, there's a custom fail message for each time you abandon early.
Really?
Depending on the mission you abandon it in, there's a custom message. And it said, future generations, if any survive on Earth, will remember your cowardice.
I was impressed at the level of customization there. So I had one, it was one of the training missions, and I shot the target too early, because I'm like, I get this. So I targeted, I shot it, I killed it, and he's like, all right, now target the crate. I'm like, there is no crate. And so it wouldn't move on. And so I'm hitting the target toggle, right? And it just goes to him each time, just to the instructor. And so eventually I'm like, well, you're the only thing in space. And I shot him, and it's like, have you lost your mind? And then jumps home and is like, failure. Firing on an instructor will absolutely not be tolerated. Right? I was like, oh, whoops.
We don't want you in our army because you shot one of your own guys.
Yep.
Which was, so let's talk level of detail. So the premise of any flight simulator, any space combat simulator, anything is you're in your ship, you do things, right? I thought they did a great job actually trying to wrap a story around it and give you a reason to do missions.
Yes,
I agree.
That was one of my favorite things that I kind of noticed, was that even though the gameplay itself is very repetitive, you're just flying your ship in every single mission, there is an actual story. You get it through the briefings and through the cutscenes, and sometimes through the dialogue that's going on in the mission, but that's usually not the case. It's almost like out of the mission, you're getting more out of the story.
Right, and a briefing screen. I haven't seen one of those in a long time where it's like you can click through it. And so I want you to be honest. How many didn't realize you could customize your ship and loadout until well into the game?
I realized, but I didn't want to do it. Like, I was like, I mentioned earlier, I was like, oh, that's nice that you're going to allow me to do it. I'm not going to do it. And then it was like toward the very end, I finally did it. I was like, oh, yeah, I should have been doing that the whole time. It was way better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew because I remembered.
See,
before.
I somehow forgot that, and so I'm like flying a heavy bomber, and I'm trying to like do dogfights. I'm like, why did they give me this thing? I don't want it. And I'm like, oh, I bet I can get something else, right?
Though I didn't, so I went into the customization screen for the first time, right? You've got like Alpha Wing and Beta Wing, and I'm like, well, I can customize all of my fighters, but how do I pick my ship? And this is like second to last mission. I didn't realize that I was Alpha 1.
You've been
Oh,
Alpha
really?
1 the whole mission.
I thought Alpha, the whole squadron were by wingmen, right? And that I was like some captain or something.
So the 4 that you saw that you could customize thought you.
Yeah, I thought they were
all
my wingmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
They call you Alpha 1 the whole
No,
game.
they say Alpha 1. It was not clear they were talking to me. I thought they were talking to my wingman. Because they'll do the same thing. They're like, Gamma 1, make sure you pay attention to this. Alpha 1, make sure you pay attention to that. I'm like, yeah, go ahead and do that, Gamma 1. Go ahead and do that, Alpha 1.
I'm sure they're saying Alpha 1, why don't you talk that? You're like, oh, me? Was that me?
Was it you or Klipper that didn't realize they were nomad on Crisis?
I didn't for a while.
Okay.
I don't think
So
you did either, right? Like
maybe a running theme.
Yeah, I don't pay attention to the names. So, like, I will say that the briefings helped with that. To see the word, like, Vasudin, I was like, oh, and it helped stick in my mind better. That said, I hated reading all that. Like, I felt like I had to read way too much to, like,
Oh, yeah?
understand the story. I felt like I couldn't just, like, skip, look at the bulleted list, or I wouldn't understand why I was doing what I was doing.
So, did you
Yeah.
notice the naming themes of the ships?
I didn't notice it until the very end.
But the
Because I didn't pay
Sudans
attention,
are all
right?
Egyptian names, right?
And demons, like Lucifer.
Well, that's Shivans.
The Shivans.
Shivans are all.
Shivan, sorry. Yeah.
Is it Hindu? That's like
Indian based, like
Krishna and
yeah, the wings were called like Krishna wing and
Arjuna.
Arjuna wing.
Yeah, it was all like.
See, I didn't
I don't know if
recognize
that's
Arjuna
Hindu
at
or
all,
what.
and so I just assumed it was some like made up word. And
And let's just say the Lucifer is an awesome name for a ship. Like when I first saw it, I was like, Lucifer, that's sweet.
Yeah.
makes me think of that pudgy cat in Cinderella. So that was my mental.
Rob clearly has kids. I'm like Cinderella. So and then Norse gods for the Terrans,
Yeah.
right? Which I thought was pretty neat.
And like Greek stuff because you got Alpha, Beta, Gamma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Whereas the Vasudans stick with what are theirs? I forget now. Maybe they were Egyptians too for both things.
I can't.
Because I think there was always a difference between
I
the
didn't pay
ship, the
attention
name
to
of the
the-
ship class, and
Right.
the wing name.
Right, because
Yeah.
like the ship you were on was called an Apollo. The first one was like an
Yes,
Apollo.
yeah.
And then there was a
There was
Hercules,
Valkyries.
Valkyries.
Yeah.
Which Valkyrie was awesome. It looked like just like a fighter jet. Which
Yeah.
did you notice that the ship that kind of was the joint venture between the Terrans and the Vasudans looked just like the ships from Independence Day, the enemy alien ships?
I didn't
No.
know
They had that flat kind of wing and then the cockpit right in the middle of
Oh, is
it.
that the Ulysses?
Yeah, the Ulysses. I think.
Okay, I can see that now that you say that, but I didn't think of that at the time.
Yeah, I was like, oh, cool. It's like the Independence Day. Yeah. So speaking of visual, I played on
Sure.
the Descent 2, so I'm Freespace 2 engine, so I don't have much to say. But I thought they were good. They held up okay.
They're fine because so much of it is just black space. You know, they don't need to render any ground or any scenery really. And then you're flying around so fast that even the other ships and stuff you don't ever really get a good look at to really care. Some of the capital ships maybe, could be nicer, but it doesn't matter. I don't
See,
think.
my biggest complaint were the backgrounds, right? As long as it was like black with stars, that was fine. But then every
Yeah.
now and again, they would put like these weird polygon gradients of like green that were intersecting at weird
Like
angles
nebulas.
Yeah,
and
some
stuff.
of the nebulas.
And that looked
bad.
really funky. And and then there was a few levels where for some reason they like didn't show stars and it didn't look very good. But then when you would use your booster, you would see the stars, and I was like, oh, it looks fine now. But then like the stars would dim out again.
Oh,
I wasn't
weird.
sure why.
Which
Maybe I did see that a few times too.
you mentioned the booster, which I thought was interesting. You have an afterburner, which is for bursts. Why did you slow down after letting off the afterburner?
I asked the same thing. I was like, man, this is very friction heavy space.
What's the speed where you just kind of keep going?
Yeah,
I didn't
that was
think of
weird.
that.
But
I mean, but well, that's what we do. We don't have space combat yet, so we just basically
It is.
take like Earth combat in
Yeah.
air and be like, yeah, it's
It
pretty
is
space.
pretty arcadey.
I was also confused originally, and it made sense by the end when I figured it out, but I was confused between the difference between your faster-than-light jumping and subspace. I was like, why do we need this subspace stuff if we can go faster than light? But it was just like a true wormhole that's going crazy distances, where the speed of light would just take you forever, right?
Sure.
And so it was subspace jump nodes. I didn't understand that.
I
And I,
think the
also
idea
didn't understand
was-
how it broke, but...
I think the idea was that there was always your capital ship in another place, but still close by. So your personal ship could jump to it, but it couldn't jump to another solar system.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You were like, because the speed of light would be fast enough inside of a solar or inside of one system to
Sure.
get from one side to the other.
Yeah, but you couldn't. Yeah, you needed subspace to go to a new area.
Which I thought was super interesting. So we liked the visuals aside from the backgrounds were pretty good.
Some of the pre-rendered 3D was a little bit rough, but not bad. It
The
was
cutscenes?
definitely...
Yeah, the cutscenes were a little rough.
Like, especially the faces, right? Like,
Yeah,
the
faces were bad.
intro, like, you see that pilot, but you're like, okay, his face is mostly covered with a helmet, not too bad. And then the lady's like, what's wrong? And you're like, oh, man, we are deep in Uncanny Valley. And then there was that one, like, general dude or whatever that had, like, the really
Did
puffy
the
cheeks.
briefings like this.
And he had, like, the shoulder pads that would have, like, made Madonna blush. Like,
Well, it was late 90s, so...
I still appreciated that there were cutscenes
yeah.
because it seemed
I
like
liked 'em.
I was trying to remember, like Blizzard always had really good cutscenes in their games, but did anyone else really?
So Wing Commander did.
Almost-
Wing Commander was a competing...
But they had like full motion video, didn't they?
Right. They were FMV. They weren't
Yeah.
rendered. Mm-hmm.
But there was a lot of those that would, like, combine it, right? So if you go back to Dark Forces 2, you have the FMV stuff mixed with the rendered stuff, right? So, like, all the droids are pre-rendered, all the space flights pre-rendered. But then as soon as you get to the
remember that.
humans, then the humans are FMV, right? And it's like that low grainy stuff where, like, everybody who's going to talk slowly makes their way to the front of the camera so you can actually kind of tell what emotions they're conveying with their face.
The one of 4 that had been programmed
Yeah.
in. It's like shock, surprise. That's the same thing.
Nice.
But yeah, it was a little dated. For me, playing on the Freespace 2 engine, it looked good. The resolution was high, but then it would snap to one of those videos. I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, here we go. We're back.
What did the jump nodes look like for you? The vector-based jump nodes?
So they were green. They were like a lime green, and they scaled just like a regular vector would.
How stair-steppy were they? Like MS Paint?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just curious if Freespace 2 was just as bad on that one as...
So wait, did you guys leave your HUD color as green?
No, blue.
Blue. Blue is the way to go.
Mine is orange.
Oh, the amber. Amber. Yeah.
Oh, was it
It's
amber?
fine. As
Yeah.
long as you change it off green.
I tried,
it came with
I
it.
tried
That's
amber.
what Freespace 2's default was. So I was
Oh,
just
yeah?
like,
Oh, is amber?
yeah.
Oh, really? It's
Interesting.
green in
Yeah.
in Freespace 1.
And I liked the green okay, but I liked the blue better. It just was
Blue
less abrasive.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
For you guys, you could actually use it. Mine was so small. I was like, I can't like.
So how could you tell like how many bombs you had and stuff?
For the audio listeners, Klipper is moving his head close to
Oh
the
yeah, that's
screen.
true.
You just have to breathe heavily, and then they get the effect.
Yeah, like so you'd have to do like target subsystems. That's one of the functions you push, right? Well, I had to go. Let's see, which one am I in? I'm like zoomed in. I'm like, oh, okay, it's that one.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Like I was like in
Yeah.
one of those dippy birds, like that dips in the water. That was me playing Freespace,
Oh,
but it was worth it because Freespace 2.
yeah.
I didn't
probably.
really target subsystems unless they made me for the longest time, and then it got hard. And I was like, oh man, I really need to target subsystems, which was cool because it meant that the feature suddenly became imperative, and that was fun to make you have to do
Yeah,
that.
the game kind of does that as you go along. Like they teach you how to do the communication stuff, and for a little while you don't really need to. But on the last few missions, like it becomes pretty important to like actually
yeah.
tell your ships what they should be doing,
Yeah.
and who to target.
And let's just say the wingmen are the real MVP in this game. Like they are completely competent. Like on one of the missions, I just flew off into the distance and like waited 10 minutes and says mission complete, return to base. Like thanks, wingman. And
There was one video that I captured where I told them there was one Shivan ship left, and I had just one group, and then I think there were Vasudans also, and I told all ships to go and attack this ship. I took a video of it. They could not kill it. They're just
Really?
flying around in circles, and it's just the one ship like took them all out. And this is pretty far into the mission. Like you have shields, and you could target the Shivans at this point, and it destroyed them.
That's funny.
But that was the only mission that I saw that on. The rest of the time, like the wingmen were awesome. Like
So
do
they
really
crashed
good.
into me.
oh my
I didn't like
goodness,
that.
didn't they? Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
They would
goodness.
clip me all the time going past me.
I don't remember that happening from playing it before
I don't
as much.
I didn't either.
Like,
but I swear, when you
yeah.
got down to your last few ships, it was like everyone's like flying like with their
Stay
arms
away
like
from me.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
jeez. But the sound design was fantastic.
Yeah, it
I
was
love the metal groaning when you hit.
Yeah.
Even though it was the same audio file
Sure.
every time. I still loved it.
Yeah, it was good.
all the sounds were very nostalgic to me.
Extremely.
Yeah, like the guns, the explosions, just the flying by. Like I said, the ship flies by you. Oh, it sounded so good.
I think they hold up pretty well. Sound design got better faster than visual design, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so too. And the sounds were recognizable. Like I'd hear a certain sound and be like, "Oh, I know what that is." The missile sound coming in.
Yeah.
I didn't even have to look at my HUD, like I would have been able to see it. But I knew by sound which year it was coming into, how close it was. I'm like, okay, countermeasures.
Yeah, they did a really good job with that.
I couldn't remember what my countermeasures button was when it started to matter. But then luckily I went back and I was editing my videos. I was like, oh yeah, X, that's what it was. Good.
Now, speaking of rebinding your keys, something from the era that I was surprised of, it showed up what I rebound it to and it gave me my tooltips.
Yeah.
It's like push countermeasures button 4. Even on like this modern joystick with 10 buttons, it was like button 10. I was like, wow, good on them. Because even some modern games say push reload.
Yeah.
Well, what's my reload key?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you.
Exactly.
Just go look it up. You got it in your config file, right?
Yeah, I definitely appreciate that when games do that.
Yeah.
That is a big... It seems like such a simple thing to program into a game, but sometimes they forget to.
It definitely adds a layer of complexity. I mean, so for example, I'm making a game right now for you guys and it's web-based, and to
Hooray!
to reprogram the keys on the controller, I was like, man, this is like kind of a pain in the butt. And so I was like, nah, screw it. I'm just going to make it exactly what I want because I know you guys are going to be using these controllers.
And you will adapt.
Yeah. Well, no, but I mean, it's also that visually I want it to coordinate with the controllers. And so it can be a little bit tricky that way, right? Like, so for example, I'm thinking of Freespace. There was a key to toggle between the weapon systems, right? And it was the chevron keys, right? But it wasn't really the chevron keys because you're not holding down shift, right? So you're hitting comma and you're hitting period.
Can I ask what a chevron is?
Sorry, the greater than, less than.
Thank you.
Sorry. So you're hitting comma and you're hitting period, right?
I'm an art major. I knew what that was.
But I mean, Freespace was smart enough since they were the defaults, and they would say hit, like the less than sign to go left and the greater than sign to go right? Because they know that visually that one makes more sense, even though you're not really holding down shift to hit those keys. Whereas if you rebound them to something, then it might not be smart enough to do that for you.
And we learned that Cynic's a programmer.
Yeah.
That was very clear by that description.
Sure.
And thank you for saying less than greater than and not the alligator left and alligator right.
The hungry alligator, the bulimic alligator. No.
Something that I wish I had remembered, I didn't realize until I was watching people play this, is that you can bind the missiles to launch 2 at the same time.
Really?
Yeah.
You mean the primary weapons, not the bombs, right?
No, the bombs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Is you can set it to double fire.
I didn't
know
It'll
that.
launch 2 at once. I didn't remember that either.
Interesting.
And I guess I missed that when I was going through all the key configuration.
Some of them did it by default, though, like the Hornets. They would fire 4 at once.
That was a cluster missile, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But that was, just part of their nature, I guess.
Yeah. So I didn't realize you could change it. I was just like, oh,
it would have been
Hornets
really
fire 4 at
helpful,
once.
especially on the later when you're a bomber, like launching 2 tsunamis or 2 harbingers.
That would have been nice.
Would have been really nice.
So let's hand it to the scientists who, like, every other mission had some new ship or some new weapon for us.
There was a lot more.
Look at 'em
than
go.
I remembered. Yeah, new ships, new lasers and missiles.
And I liked it, though, because it wasn't just like random, hey, we paid a bunch of scientists and now they've come up with this new thing. It was like, no, you need to capture the ship, you need to bring it back, and then we're going to reverse engineer it while you do a mission without this thing, and the next mission you'll have this thing that we've reverse engineered. Or we were able to reverse engineer these 2 subsystems, but these other 4, we can't figure them out. Sorry, good luck, right?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
So there's a mission where the Shivans first show up and you can't target them, but they're flying around. Mm-hmm. You can kill one.
You can.
Did you?
The first time they showed up, I tried so hard, and I think I got close, but they warped out before. On the very next mission is where you're protecting the Galatay as it flies through the asteroid. And the Shivans show up again, and you can't target them. I did kill one on that mission.
Oh, cool. I shot a bunch and he'd warped out too, and I was like, darn it.
You have to... I think on the missions they default you to the interceptor or whatever the targeting missile is. Mm-hmm. You have to switch it to the dumbfire ones.
Oh, like the Furies?
Yeah, Furies. If you switch it to those and just fire away like tons and tons of them, you can actually get through the shields and kill them.
And it was kind of cool because each mission there was like a recommendations button to see what you could have done better. Mm-hmm. And then I saw that and it said, yep, you would have really boosted morale to take one down. I was like, oh. So I guess
yeah.
So I reflew the mission and I didn't do it, but...
Uh-huh.
I felt like she was like the perpetually disappointed mother. It's like, good job doing exactly what we told you to do, but why didn't you do this other thing that you didn't know about? I was like, oh man, like
You really should have identified all of those containers. Well, I'm sorry, there was 50. I missed one.
Yeah.
So the missions themselves, I thought there was a decent variety.
There are.
You have your standard. Now we've noticed this trope, and maybe we've talked about this on our cast. Is you've got your standard like kill everyone mission, just go kill everything. You have escort missions, and you could probably say defend missions and escort missions are the same.
Yeah.
You got your stealth mission, don't get caught and do whatever. This had all of them in a space sim.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There was only one stealth sim, right? Just the one where you flew the Arjuna after the capture.
Undercover.
But that was it, right? There's that one.
Yeah.
And that one was okay, but I will say that one was also the most infuriating because in three-dimensional space, I had to like keep thumbing through the targeting systems to have any idea where people were. Because like I felt like the circle HUD was useless. You couldn't tell how close things were on that.
Right. They would change from either dim to bright,
Yeah.
but it wasn't.
But then you
super
wouldn't be
indicative
too
of how
close if they were bright, and then they'd start like yelling at you. That helped, right? They're like, "You're too close to this thing." You're like, tap. T. Oh, it's that one. Okay.
Yeah.
Slide away.
Which, that's funny. You looked on your HUD. I didn't know you could look in your HUD for that because I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I wish you could have targeted forward and backward. I would have liked a target forward and go back one because sometimes there's 30 things that you were targeting through, and I'd target through and I'd pass it, and I was like, oh.
There might have been.
Okay.
The targeting rebind key is a page long of targeting
Yeah,
commands.
there's a lot of
huge.
things. There's weird stuff too, like target the last person that spoke. And like,
Whoa.
like
I
target
didn't
the
know
last person that was refueled or something like that. There's there's weird ones.
Yeah, I only did the closest hostile / second closest hostile if you double tap it.
Yeah.
And then just target straight circle through
Whatever's
round robin.
directly ahead.
Yeah, I love that one.
I didn't know
Directly
that
ahead
one.
is really nice.
Oh man.
It's like there's a bad guy. Click.
I didn't know
target.
that one, so I would just hit T a bunch to target through everybody in space until it hit the one.
So you
I
did the
wanted.
old Toy Story one where it's like, we've already gone past that channel. Keep going until we go back
And
around.
there's stuff like you, I think, targets unscanned cargo or unscanned ships, like on the one
interesting.
you're undercover. So that's
would've been
really
useful.
helpful.
Yeah.
There's some really helpful key bindings. Again, you need a keyboard and something else,
Yeah.
or just a keyboard. To
Yeah, so
play
I
this.
was rocking the joystick and then my keyboard to the side, and
that's how I did it.
And I was running my throttle to my left end, and I just kind of moved side to side.
Yeah.
The one that I wish that I had rebound was control for fire, right? So that basically meant that I was spidering across the whole keyboard the whole time because the left control was the default fire button, and then I had to like hit H while I was piloting with my right hand. And so I was
That's
frequently
crazy.
stretching the entire span that my not small hands could reach to hit that H button, and I think that's what caused my arm to hurt as much as it
Oh,
did.
man.
I still can't get over used a keyboard.
It wasn't bad. Well, I played the original Descents with a keyboard, and it was a very similar keyboard layout.
You can use a mouse in the
I can
original
imagine.
Descents?
No, I again, like when I downloaded the demos way back in the day, I probably didn't even realize you could change the config, right? Like,
See, I've always had a joystick, so I've played them all with a joystick since
no, I
since
never
day
did.
one.
Yeah,
This is off topic. Was there Descent on Nintendo 64?
I think there was a port. Yeah,
Okay.
if not, there's a port of something that looks very similar.
Yeah, I remember playing something where you are a ship inside like a mine
Yeah.
or something.
You go blow up the reactor, and then you have to get out before it blows.
Possibly. But I can't remember if it was Descent or, some other thing that was just very Descent-like.
Apparently, Descent Freespace was ported to the Amiga, and so there's an Amiga version out there somewhere. I don't know how true it is to the original, but it was definitely an after-the-fact port.
So, did anyone else pick up on the very small Easter egg when they're testing the shields?
Yes. I did not remember that from
I didn't either. But they're like, 1.21 gigawatts.
Oh, I
I was like,
didn't hear that.
oh.
No, he said gigawatts.
Oh, did he say gigawatt?
Yes, which is why I think you don't notice. Because if he had said gigawatts, I think it would
Probably.
have been a lot more noticeable.
But when he said 1.21, I was like, you're clever.
1.21 gigawatts.
Like,
Yeah.
you're so clever.
Yeah.
Did you also enjoy the...
That was the only time, that was the only time in the game I think I laughed. There's no humor in the
None.
game.
Yeah, that's true.
But I
didn't
kind
notice
of
that.
appreciated that the briefings and everything are very professional. And it's not done like a lot of modern games. I feel like the military stuff is either done like super over the top or it's almost presented in like a negative way that like if you're, all gung ho devoted to your military, that's a bad thing. And in this they don't do that. It's just straightforward, but it's very professional and I don't know. Something about that you don't really see nowadays, and I liked that.
I think that's why, for me, the biggest parallel was Battlestar Galactica, because it definitely felt more like that than it felt like other
Yeah.
space things, right? It didn't feel like Star Trek. Didn't feel like Star Wars. It was way more in the Battlestar Galactica vein than anything else.
You are definitely military,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's it.
And also, like,
Yeah.
you're defending your species, right? Like, your species is under direct genocidal
Yes.
threat. Right?
So the stakes felt real to me.
Mhm.
I know it was a silly
Yeah.
game and it's an old game, but like I'm like, these guys are coming right for our homeworld.
They do a really good job of making things worse and worse as the game goes on. Like when the Vasudin homeworld dies,
exactly.
like
Yeah.
that's super intense moment, and you just get that through a briefing, but it's still like, oh man, like the Lucifer is not messing around. Like,
Yeah, and they
And it
say
made me wonder if it was my fault, right? Because up to
Yeah.
that point, there was times where they were like, "Oh, you failed this piece, so we're not going to have this piece to fight with in the future," right?
and when they present that the Vasudin homeworld had been destroyed, it was we estimate a loss of 3 to 4 billion
Yeah.
lives.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
oh my goodness, I am
Yeah.
so sorry. Which
and it's like there's 2 or 3 jumps until they make it to Earth. So
right, it's like
we need to prepare.
you are
Yeah.
next. So did any times you see like the Lucifer jump in and you're like, nah, not on my watch, and you go straight at it, and it's like, no, it's invincible.
Yeah,
It's not invincible. So
You took it down?
Dude,
So
you
no, I got it down to like 1%, and it jumps away.
Really?
I
Because
thought
I-
you couldn't even damage it.
I didn't realize I wasn't supposed to be fighting it. So I had killed like everything, and I didn't realize that the mission was over. And so I went over and I was fighting the Lucifer, and I just sat there plugging away and refueling. And I was just I was super close to it. I was like almost touching it, and so it couldn't shoot
Where
me.
the cannons are like going like
Yeah,
this.
it
and you
couldn't.
can't-
It couldn't shoot me,
Yeah.
and so I was just tucked in its armpit, shooting it. And then eventually, I got it down to like 1%. I'm like, I'm gonna kill this thing, yes. And my wingmen aren't helping me at all, even though I tell them to keep like attacking it. they're not even trying. And then eventually, it just jumps out. And I was like, oh.
Would you really though if you're like Alpha One says, hey, why don't you go ahead and take the Lucifer down? I'd be like, nah, no, I'm good.
I'm not getting near that.
And the whole I loved how you could hear them speaking in their native tongue, but it was just like this mechanical voiceover
Yeah.
of the translation.
Uh-huh,
Nice
the students.
touch.
Yeah.
I
It
like
was
that.
good.
And I don't think the voice acting was professional. I don't think they hired that out.
There's some moments in the briefing that I captured that are really bad.
It sounds like devs. It really sounds
Yeah.
like
It's quite
placeholder devs.
possible.
Well, even the very first intro, right? Like the pilot that's under attack sounds okay. The lady at the relay station that's talking to him does not.
No.
Like, she does not sound like a professional voice actress.
Yeah, it almost seemed like almost all the females were the bad ones. Not to be misogynistic or anything, but the times that I noticed, I feel like every single time it was a woman's voice.
I don't know.
Different
I'd
women.
say the briefing,
but-
the general wasn't very good.
No.
He was pretty rough.
Maybe not.
But the actual voice, like your fellow pilots and stuff,
Yeah.
there were some that sounded very much like I recorded this at my desk
Yeah.
and they put it in the thing. Like even the quality wasn't good. Like the
Yeah.
sound quality of the missiles and the explosions were great, and then the voice was just like,
But I think that's fudgeable, right? Because you could be like, oh, there's interference, right? Like there were times when there was like static on the screen and things like
Yeah.
that, and so you could be like, well, this is low bandwidth, like radio transmission peer to peer or something like that,
Sure.
right?
The time that I really noticed it is when the Vasudin homeworld got destroyed. She like didn't sound sympathetic
Yeah.
or like caring at all. It was just like very,
several billion died.
very robotic. Like yeah,
The other
Anyway,
one I
in
loved
the
was,
cafeteria today, we're going to be having chicken cordon bleu.
yeah.
the other one I loved was the mission I failed, where the ship gets destroyed, the scientists all go in escape pods, and then they're picking off the escape pods. All the escape pods died, right? And I get back, and she's like, super disappointed in me, but she's like, the scientists and their research will be greatly missed. And I was just like, yeah, with your like deadpan voice there makes me
Yeah.
think you only care about the research.
I thought it was interesting you could fail a primary mission objective and still pass the mission.
Yeah,
A
sometimes.
few times it'd be like, yeah, you were supposed to defend this ship, and it was going to help you later, but now it's gone.
I wasn't confident that you were allowed to pass those missions, right? So there's one where
There's somewhere.
there's
yeah,
one
you
you jump
can.
in and you're
Yeah.
like 7 clicks away, and immediately you fail the primary.
Oh, yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
The
on
Vasudin-
those. Yeah, there's nothing.
I
you
didn't
can
like
do.
those ones. I wish that they had like just made it impossible in other ways, right? Rather than making it feel like nope, you don't get this one, right? Like make you fight for it and then make you fail so that you're more invested in it. But
Basically, anytime if you click the recommendations and it said there was nothing else,
Yeah.
then you knew that you did everything you could.
And there were times where things warp in and say, please help us, and you're supposed to be escorting some transport, and you're like, I really want to go
I think
help.
I didn't go.
I really want to. So I boosted straight for him. Someone warps in and takes out your thing
Yeah.
you're supposed to be defending.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
And you're like, oh, I made a poor choice.
yeah, I had that happen too.
when the ships took an impact on him, what were the shields look like on the original engine?
With the
shield?
shields that you were shooting,
Yeah, like what was
it
how
was
was
just
the
kind of a white Vaseline blur.
But was it like
Yeah.
a bubble around the ship, or was it like contoured over the whole
You
of
could
it?
tell there was a bubble, but it didn't fill the whole bubble wasn't filled.
No,
in.
it was just
the
part?
part that you
Yeah.
shot.
What color was it?
Just kind of a whitish blur.
Whitish,
Yeah.
In Freespace 2, it's different colors depending on the race.
Really?
Oh, I did notice that when I was watching playthrough.
So the Shivans
It
go
looked
red.
really distracting.
Yeah, and the Shivans are already kind of a red ship. Most of them have a
Uh-huh.
red design. You'd hit it with red and the whole thing would go boom. I'm like, oh, is it on fire? Nope, that's just a shield. The Vasudans had green shields, and the Terrans had kind of like the white.
Yeah.
Just nerd trivia here. It's the standard bubble shield like Star Trek uses versus the contour shields of Star Wars for most of their stuff.
Thank you.
I'm real fun at parties.
More on that nerd front. So the Shivan ships, did you notice that they were asymmetrical frequently
Yes!
and not aerodynamic in
Yes!
any way? I was like,
I
oh,
really
wait
like
a
that
minute.
design.
And especially where like they're just going across genociding everyone. You're like, wait, these ships are not meant to enter atmosphere ever. Whereas like the Vasudan ships, the Terran ships, you enter atmo and then you have to come out. So you have to have at least some aerodynamic nature. Whereas the Shivans aren't. They just jump and destroy.
Yeah,
That's
the
it.
Scorpion that had like the tail on it, and it was just like one side engine out the side. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
this is a
Yeah.
cool design.
But it would never work with anything atmosphere related, right?
Yeah. I like that.
I
Just
felt
their look in general, like being very just black, spiky,
Mm-hmm.
kind of red, glowy.
they're intimidating.
Yeah.
The first time you see him warp in, or the first time you see the Lucifer come in, you're like, oh my goodness. And capital ships had a sense of scale to me. Like, how many
yeah.
times was it like, oh my goodness, I have to fly on the other side of
Yeah.
the site
And
to
it would
get
take
to
a
him?
while.
Defending the Bastion was the worst. I was like, oh my gosh, Bastion, you are so fat.
Yeah.
And you're like, and around and around and around we go. Did everyone shed a tear for the Galate?
Oh, of course.
It was sad. Like, I was emotionally invested. I know I'm such a dork, but I was like, I saw the Galate go, and I'm like, that's my home. They just killed my home.
It was sad.
And then the menus changed.
Yeah.
I didn't
It does
notice.
earlier.
It does too when
If-
you're like on the Bastion.
But you're
for a
only on
bit.
the Bastion for like 1 or 2 missions. So if you don't quit during that time,
You
don't
never see it. But if
Yeah.
you hop out, all of a sudden the menus are different. And I was like, oh goodness, I'm on a different ship now.
Oh, I didn't even. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I didn't realize that was because of that. I thought it was just a different angle. I thought it was head on versus oblique, and they were just like, oh, halfway through, we're going to give you a different camera angle.
Oh, no, yeah.
You're on the Bastion
Because
now.
It was a different ship.
Oh,
because
that's
your home was
think-
destroyed.
smart. Yeah.
I think in Freespace 2 even there's even more because you're in like a Vasudan ship, I think, at times too. And so they play with that.
Well, that's cool.
Which was, the menus were fun. I liked the idea of it, but I was like, mouse
Yeah.
over, what are you?
Yeah.
And with my HUD being this big, I was like,
Oh, good.
Oh,
Did does Raptor Call of the Shadows do that?
yes.
Where the menu
Yes.
is inside a ship like that?
Sure does.
Okay. I seem to remember that, but it's been a long time since I played that too.
Which also looks like a Valkyrie. The
yeah,
ship, it looks
does
just
look-
like a Valkyrie.
It does look like a Valkyrie.
Which I thought was funny. The ships, every time they take damage, like I'd have a whole percentage like 98 or 97%, and I'd flame shooting out the side of it every
Yeah.
time. I'm like, I'm not that bad, but
Yeah, some of the times you'd be escorting people and they'd have flames shooting out. I was like, oh, how damaged are you? And I'd go to them and they were 100%. I was like, I don't understand
well,
why.
and those missions where you couldn't target the Shivans yet, I was like, oh, I think he's almost dead because he's flaming, and I'm sitting
Yeah.
there hitting him still a ton more times, and he doesn't die.
Yeah.
So let's talk about like the missions a little bit. Generally, a good kind of balance of different types or whatever.
Uh-huh.
The last mission where you actually go after the Lucifer, I thought was a big letdown.
Yeah, I
When
was
you're
confused.
in subspace, or
Yeah,
before?
when you're in subspace. So that was dumb. So you're defending the Bastion, and you have to keep it alive so it can jump after the Lucifer, right? Into the subspace. So, well, you know, this mission's like, oh, we warped in too far away. We're never going to make it. Let's just send our bomb squadrons at it.
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter the one right before. If you just zoom right to the jump node and jump out, like that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I'm sitting there trying to like defend the Bastion, and it's like, you got 6 minutes, Alpha 1, get going. And I'm like, well, you haven't told me to go. I'm still fighting here.
Yeah.
And it doesn't say go to the subspace node ever. It says it on audio cues, but there's never a mission thing that says
Oh, okay.
go to the subspace
Are
node.
you sure, Mr. 2-point font HUD?
That's true.
Because I basically I didn't pay close enough attention to the audio cues, and so I looked at that directives almost all the time, and so
You're supposed to just fly right to it, and I didn't for a long time.
Yeah, I remembered that from playing before, that the way to beat that mission and the best way to do it is just to go to the node. The guy that I was watching on YouTube play that one, he like actually fought and like tried to do it correctly, I would say, and all his wingmen died, like, and so when he gets into the subspace, like, he's down a few men, and like his ship's like at 50% hull, and then you don't have shields when you're in
Yeah,
there.
right.
Yep.
It looked like a pain, and I was just like, no, that's the wrong way to do it. You just zoom there as fast as you can and warp out before any of your people get hurt.
Which, why in that mission are you flying escort? You're not even a bomber. Like, you are not meant to kill Lucifer yourself.
I was a bomber.
So
You could switch to it.
You could,
yeah.
but your default was an escort.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there escorting, killing all the other guys, whenever, and they're all like dropping tsunami bombs on the reactors. I'm like, I wish I was doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I got confused because so it said you had to destroy all 5 reactors, right?
Mm-hmm.
I zoomed ahead and I just told all fighters to engage the enemy, and so they were picking off the little guys. I zoomed ahead to the farthest forward reactor node, and I shot that one myself, and I exploded it, and then suddenly the cutscene ended and the game was over. And so I wasn't sure if it was because I just skipped it because I killed the 5th one, or if my people like simultaneously coordinated and killed all 4 other reactors.
They might have, because if they're bombers, yeah.
Your bombers,
were,
even if you
well,
say attack
most
everything,
of them were bombers.
If you tell your wingmen to attack everything, your bombers will go after their target.
Okay.
Which was the Lucifer. So they were probably
Because I figured I was going to have to target the subsystems, and it was like right as I blew up my reactor, suddenly it was over. I was like, what just happened? I thought I had to do
must have
probably the
4
last
more
one.
of those.
Yeah,
probably. Because I think the guy I was watching did them out of order, and one was left, like in the middle of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so it didn't end until he actually had blown them all up.
Which I thought the ending was very abrupt. Because the second the reactor blows, it goes to a cutscene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it goes into the cutscene. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I did it. And I'm sitting there watching, and then it shows the Lucifer breaking up, and then you see that big arc explosion out of it, which is the subspace node going down.
Yeah.
And that's what protected Earth.
Well, and that's what I was not clear on. So the epilogue was so artsy-fartsy that like I wasn't sure 100% what happened, right? I was sure that the jump node had died.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize that we had caused it for sure.
Oh,
I knew
yeah.
that it like went down around that time, but I wasn't sure if it was because someone had done it on purpose or what. And then like they were super sad, and so I wasn't sure if like Earth had somehow been destroyed in that wake or not.
It's just that Earth is now cut off from everyone else.
Yeah, you just
and
lost.
the people that are not at Earth are now cut off from Earth.
Right.
So no one can get back to their home
And you
planet.
have no way of rebuilding those subspace nodes.
Yeah.
So the first one was just a discovery then? Because I was never clear on where
They
these
don't.
nodes
Yeah, they
came
don't
from.
really talk about that because when you start the game, the war with the Vasuns has been going on for like 14 years.
And we already
or
use these
whatever.
things all the time.
Yeah, and so there is, and that kind of happens throughout the game too. Even the Shivans, you don't get a really good idea of exactly who they are and like their motivations and stuff. You kind of pick up some things in some cutscenes, or
Yeah.
if you go read their description in like the menu. But still, they keep it pretty vague and mysterious.
In one of the cutscenes, she said, when we discovered subspace, everything changed, right? But I was like, well, I always assumed that meant you discovered subspace and built the node to get to it. But
Well, speaking of, did you realize that the woman that's speaking in those ones she's an ancient. She's not a human.
Right.
oh, that makes so much more sense.
And the ancients had been destroyed by the Shivans.
Yeah, that makes so much more sense because I'm like, why are you so sad about this stuff? Because I don't think Earth got blown up. It
Yeah.
destroyed our homeworld. What are you talking about? So
I think the idea
makes so
is
much more sense.
that those, it's like her journal or whatever, was left with the artifacts that they find that you end up
Gotcha.
eventually having to escort.
It's super confusing though because before you find that, she's already giving you cutscenes.
Yeah. And so it is kind of weird
okay.
that it's, I don't know if they were trying to be artistic or something and play it
be.
out of order like that.
Well,
but-
budget came into play a lot. So apparently, more than half of the cutscenes that they had planned and scripted got cut out because they didn't have time to put them in.
Oh,
Really?
wow.
Yeah, budget-wise and time-wise.
Yeah, and the ancients kind of gave off that aura of we sacrificed ourselves. Well, not sacrificed ourselves, but we were destroyed by the Shivans, but we put our knowledge, like, that their shields don't work in subspace here for someone else, which
Yeah.
I thought was kind of poetic. It's like,
Now, did we discover the ancients during gameplay, right? Isn't that what it seemed like?
Like your character doesn't, but someone...
Yeah.
the Vasuns, after their
Vasuns
homeworld
do.
crashes, the what do you call
Some
them?
refugees
Refugees
find
find it,
Yeah.
Because, so the way that the Vasudans talk about the ancients, they talk about the legends of the ancients are true and things like that. And so I was confused as to whether or not we discovered them then, and they were just referring to these things as legends, or if it was that there was like this rich history and they were referring to them.
I think
as
Vasudans, because that's why the Hammer of Light exists. Because they had, like, prophecies or something
Yeah.
about an ancient race.
Because the Hammer of Light,
which
they
is about
worship the Shivans, right?
So I think Vasudans do, but humans don't. Humans know nothing about that.
Okay.
Which Hammer of Light is an awesome name, by the way. Like, I loved all the names in this.
I mean, it was like, oh yeah, that's a band name. This is my Axe of Light. That's his drum kit of light.
I loved the flight dynamics of the game, where you get caught in like not jet wash, but engine wash. If you pull up right up to someone's motors or engines or space engines, whatever they are, your ship would go start bouncing and start taking damage.
I never noticed that. I
On
guess
a
I
big
didn't do it.
capital ship explosion, you lose all control because you're just getting rocked. That was cool.
On the one where you had to
the
race to the
shockwave.
jump node, like the 21 clicks, just
Yeah.
race to the jump node. There's like a sentry at the end that when it shoots you, you just go ski-wampus. You can't even steer.
There were, oh yeah, like stuff. If they knocked out your navigational stuff, it would mess with your control.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, if they blew up my sensors one more time. I had a mission where they killed it 4 times, my sensors, and you can't do anything. Because you can like dumbfire your stuff at them, you can't lock on, you can't target. And the mission I was on is I had to disable a target. Well, to do that, you have to change the subsystem view and make sure you knock out the engines. So I'm in the middle of a furball just getting attacked, and I'm like, repair ship, please come. Which was a fun dynamic.
Yeah.
Not in the middle of combat.
I
was
honestly
tricky
never
to
used them to
know-
repair a subsystem. I only used them to ammunition.
Yeah, if
But it
something
was
gets
always kind of
destroyed...
annoying when to know when to call them in. Because it
Yes.
was like,
Unless
I
you'd
have to
already
be- I'm
failed
supposed to be
once.
doing stuff. Like,
Yeah, if you'd
supposed to be
failed
my
once, then you
protection.
knew when the lulls were. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I several times I called it, and then it would just like follow me through the whole battle. Like it's like 40
Yeah.
seconds away, 50 seconds away, 60 seconds away, 50 because I'm just
Yeah.
running around fighting. I'm like,
Then I was doing was a very similar thing. All of a sudden I hear, I'm like, oh, he's on me.
Yeah.
He made it.
Guess I have to stop now.
Yeah, the subsystem.
I was never clear on that. Like I was like, if I go right now, are we like both gonna explode? And I was never willing to experiment with it because it was always like halfway through a successful battle, right?
Which was funny because if I was the bad guy and I saw a resupply ship, that thing's full of warheads.
Yeah.
Like, pop that thing, right?
Yeah.
Why? Speaking of that, why? How could he repair my subsystems? Like, I didn't understand how that even
But it
worked.
can't repair your hull. I'm assuming it's that the
Yeah.
subsystems are some sort of like computer part that are being destroyed. Just because your hull got destroyed in that area, it destroyed the computer part, so they're swapping out the computer part, and it's a relatively.
It has to be,
trivial
because I
piece.
wondered this, especially when you're fighting capital ships. Why is everyone's subsystem so close to the outer hull that you can just take them out willy-nilly?
Which, did you notice that if you had to identify something, depending on which subsystem you're on, is where you had to aim to identify?
No, I didn't realize
So on
that.
the mission where you've got the stolen Shivan ship, you're trying to
Oh.
identify these other cruisers and whatnot.
You mean to scan it?
Yes, to scan.
Okay.
Sorry, identify is what they use in X-Wing. In
Which had no influence on this.
none at all. None. Energy management, shielding, no. But if you didn't aim for that subsystem, you wouldn't scan it. So I'm sitting there like 3 inches from the Lucifer, and I'm like,
Why is it
hello,
scanning?
why is this not
Oh, that's
scanning?
interesting.
Because I targeted his motors or his engines clear over here, so I'm like, oh, I gotta
His
go over
propeller.
there. His propeller, yes. The sail, the mast,
Thrusters.
thrusters. Oh, full circle.
Making a callback. Something that I wanted to talk about, maybe the main thing that I wanted to talk about, I really loved that you are just playing a pilot in the military. You are not a savior of the universe type. You are not the chosen one that some prophecy is about. You don't have some magical ability that, makes you a better pilot than anyone else. You're just you, like with your joystick. Games don't really do that anymore. Like so much of it is you are the only person that can get this job done. You have to save us.
Yep.
Whereas this, it's like if you died, realistically, someone would just take your spot.
Yeah.
And do their thing.
We probably have more pilots than ships,
Oh,
so
yeah.
they're waiting for a
And
chance.
you're coming into this, well, at least the War of the Students, 14 years late. Things have been going on without you.
Yeah.
And let's not
Relatively fine.
let's not forget you're a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
First training mission is
Yeah.
do not touch your controller. I was already like, whee!
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Which I, as much as I didn't love the training, it at least made sense with the story because you were a rookie, right? And so that was more palatable. As far as like the resources, though, and maybe this is me imbuing too much of the Battlestar Galactica plot on top of Freespace, but I was thinking like, war's been going for a long time. We've been chipping away at our high skilled resources. Rookies are needed, and they're starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel. Come on up, get there. We'll take anyone, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It
They don't.
made me think of a scrappier military.
They don't, I guess, give your character a backstory at all.
Yeah.
Well, your name is whatever you typed in on that first screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
they
it's not
never
like they
used
said,
it.
you showed real promise in training or you made it through 3 years of boot camp. It's just like, hey, you're a rookie. We need you here, right?
Yeah.
And this is a
But
flight
I like
stick.
that.
Here's how you turn your ship around to look at me. Like, we're starting basics here.
Yeah.
And that's something, too, that you don't get in most games because you're using a controller or keyboard and mouse that does not translate to walking around or holding a gun or anything. I mean, this is pretty similar, I guess. You have buttons and a joystick, as long as you're using a joystick, not just a keyboard.
I'm just imagining Cynic's cockpit in his Apollo. It's like this just big like Keytronic 104 key.
It was hard at
Piano
first
off
to
the
like
side.
aim. I had a hard time tracking enemies for a while, but then I got the hang of it and it was all right.
I love the little aim here to hit them circle. Thank you, aim here to hit them circle.
I felt
Very
like it
useful.
wasn't accurate. I felt like I almost
Really?
always had to. So if I was aiming in the circle, I was leading too far, and I had to aim just shy of the circle, closer to the person to hit
I
them.
felt like distance did play, like have a pretty like more factor than the game would actually compensate for.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you were fairly close dogfighting with them, it was accurate. I thought.
Yeah.
It felt good to me.
Oh yeah, I mean within 400 meters, it was fine. But
Yeah.
like yeah,
Wait,
like
were
the
you shooting
600 meters.
further than 400 meters?
Oh yeah, I took people out all the time at 600 meters.
I was so until that circle showed up, your energy weapons were out of range.
The circle showed up usually at 1100 meters.
So you'd get
Yeah.
like the little thing, but if you try to shoot past that 1100 meters, your shots aren't going
Yeah,
anywhere.
yeah. But no, but so like 600 to 1100 meters was I did lots of dogfighting
Oh,
at that range.
So I just got right on their tailpipe. I must have just. I suppose they were so small
Well,
because
and
of that.
oftentimes they would warp in pretty far away, and so you'd come at them head on.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, and I felt like if I had a little bit of distance buffer, I could choose to close the gap if I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I felt when I got close, I couldn't back up very easily because they could squirrel around me.
And I wish I had a reverse thrust of some option. That would have been
Yes.
awesome.
Oh, because like you can slow down the Z button, and so well, for me, I was using A and Z for forward thrust and backward thrust, but then it just goes to 0 and stops. And I was like mashing, I'm like, why can't I go in reverse?
I just imagine like a beep. The Apollo started like, beep, beep, beep. You like put your arm back on your seat, right?
Or the other move that I really wanted, again, this is me imbuing too much Battlestar Galactica, but I wanted the nose flip that the Jackrabbits can do in Battlestar Galactica, so that you can like pass them and then just flip around and shoot in reverse. Right?
I'm just
Like,
waiting for your
super
next
helpful.
reference to like the Last Starfighter and do a death blossom.
That's in my videos. Yep.
It's like I'm surrounded by Shivan. Let's hit the death blossom.
Yep.
I'm
That's
glad
that's
we've
pretty
all
much
seen
word
that
for word
movie.
what I said.
Awesome.
I was half tempted to bring it and just tuck it right here behind Frosty's copy, but I was like, The Last Starfighter, it's not a direct line there. It's like 15 years before this game, so.
And there were like some serious competition in this realm at this time. You had X-Wing
Mm-hmm.
and subsequent TIE Fighter, which I actually think were a bit before it, weren't they?
I
Yeah.
would imagine so graphically.
So I mean,
Yeah.
they cite TIE Fighter and Wing Commander as direct inspirations. The
Right.
team does.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and Wing Commander,
I never played any of those.
Wing Commander was the first game on CD-ROM we ever got. So, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
had full motion video or rendered videos or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and that was pretty neat. But one thing that they didn't do in this that they did in X-Wing years before, as your ship got damaged, your HUD would blow apart. Like pieces would fall off and wires would spark and stuff.
Mm.
Could you actually see your ship, or were you just looking through
No.
like the canopy and you're just seeing
No.
space with a kind of a digital HUD over it?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just the HUD.
Yeah, you never actually see your ship. But if you flew close enough to someone, you could see them in their cockpit. And granted, they're just like stiff, like looks straight forward. But
I don't think it did that in ours.
You can see yourself if you look from the perspective of whatever you're targeting, which is probably the worst way to fly. I hit that button accidentally a few times,
Oh, yeah?
and it was awful. I was like, "What did I hit? I have to get out of this mode," because everything's inverted, right? It's like looking in a mirror. It's horrible.
Yeah, I remember there being weird camera modes. But I didn't mess with them this time around.
I was kind of hoping there was a third-person mode because it would have been useful in the asteroid missions and in the missions where your wing people are clipping you all the time.
Yeah.
every mission they were clipping. And maybe that's because I was flying so close to him, but it felt like all of us were just shoulder to shoulder trying to dogfight.
The few missions before I had shields, there were so many of them that I was nearly dead by the end just from people running into me.
Yeah.
Whether they were enemies or friendlies.
Yeah, without
It was-
shields, they took you down fast.
Yeah, it was crazy. I didn't remember that happening, but guess it does.
If you command them, it helps, right? Like, so if you tell them to go after... So a lot of times I'd be like, hey, you guys protect that. I'm going to go dogfight, all right? Just to be like,
Yeah.
just get out of my way. I'm going to
would've
do
been
this. But
Did you ever use like the form up on me?
no.
That was kind of cool. You hit communication, say form up on me, and if you did your back point of view switch, I don't know what that was on a keyboard, you could see him like flanking you, just kind of like hovering
Interesting.
next to you.
That was like
Finally.
the opposite.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was the opposite of anything I wanted them to do. I wanted them to form up anywhere but on me.
Form up on me, 1 kilometer behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Did it get annoying for anyone else? Like, I love the sound design, but man, holding my trigger down and shooting my energy weapons for a long time, I was like, I'm so sick of hearing this pew 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 sound. I almost want to just turn my volume down.
Especially on asteroid missions. That got very annoying.
Asteroid missions were fun because
Really?
it was
Oh, I hated
just
that.
like
I hated
asteroids.
that one.
You'd hit one, it'd go boop.
It was like much slower, much easier asteroids, I felt like,
Yeah.
which is probably my sweet spot for asteroids. Like, That game kicked my butt all the time. I hated it.
With all of our technology to like track items in space, and we have shields, you can't tell an asteroid's going to hit you until it's 6 inches from the hull of the
Yeah.
Galate.
That's one of the reasons I thought that mission was so dumb is, yeah, that and they sent 2 ships out just to shoot everything.
And what's
if it's such a big deal that we protect this capital ship, you should have more resources.
So
to
I
load it.
stopped paying attention to the brackets, and I was like, I can tell better than you can tell. And I would just go out and I'd hunt them down prematurely.
And I was wondering, does the Galate had cannons on it, or was it the Bastion? One of them, whoever you're defending.
They both. That one was the Galate.
They both have
the first
cannons.
time.
You can't get them yourself. You don't have gunners shooting.
It says in the briefings that their weapons targeting subsystem has been damaged.
Oh.
So the guns were still firing, but they weren't very accurate.
Oh, okay.
Makes more sense.
And I felt bad dogfighting around capital ships because I was like, they're flying right in front of the Galate, and I'm like, sorry, Galate, because I'm missing
yeah.
and I'm hitting
I
you.
wasn't sure if there was friendly fire or not, so I just wouldn't shoot them when they were like that. But their enemies would like get stuck in the cracks, and I'd have to like
Yeah.
fly into the crack and like aim it up real close and be careful to shoot just them and not shoot who I wanted. And then I had to get out of there without scraping the hull. It was so
You
hard.
had to do like the trench run on your own
Yeah,
ship.
it was horrible.
Yeah.
I felt so bad because I'm like dogfighting as fast as I can. All of a sudden, like one of my wingmen flies in front of me, and he gets both barrels. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, buddy.
And they whine about it too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, check your fire. Sorry.
I'm just like, check your fire, but you run into me like 10 times, so you can get off your high horse there.
Yeah, really? Are you going to insult me after you're just going, "Brown, brown"? Stop it! And I love the Sudan passive-aggressive, that's not bad for a Terran, or whatever they're saying.
Yeah. How satisfying was it the first time you could kill a Sheevan?
Oh,
that
so
was nice.
satisfying.
Like targeting a Sheevan and shooting him and killing him.
Yeah, and finally having a weapon that would do something to shields. It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, now it's on,
Yeah.
buddy.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And then they're like for a little while they're not that much more difficult than it was fighting the Sudans. Like your guns tear through their shields fairly quickly.
They're faster and the AI is better. So, I mean, that was another thing that was...
As long as they weren't dragons. Dragons were tough.
Yeah.
Always.
That was one of the things that was super revolutionary about this game. So, I mean, we didn't play it on multiple difficulty levels, but if you change the difficulty level, in a lot of these sorts of games, it's like, oh, enemies have more hit points, their bullets do more damage. In this one, the AI intelligence goes up.
Really?
Yeah, so each level of difficulty, they programmed the AI intelligence to just be better at squirreling, better at dodging, better at evading, better at flanking, and better at shooting you.
Probably launch more countermeasures.
And there was some... so did you play on easy, normal, hard?
I think I did normal because I didn't change it, and so I think it's just
I
whatever
did
the
normal.
default was.
I think I started out on normal and just put it down to easy.
Because
Like halfway through.
Because there were some missions that were challenging.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first time I played it, I just tore through the whole game. And I'm like, I must play it on easy, or I'm not as good as I used to be, which probably is more
Yeah.
accurate. But especially some of the dogfights, like, I'd be flying around and I'd be like, miss, 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 there's one hit, miss, 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 there's one hit.
Well, I love that so many of the missions were intense like that. Like
Yeah.
you would end with like the ship you were supposed to protect at like 2% hull and
Yeah.
you're almost dead. And
Yep.
it seemed like they balanced that really well. Like they must have actually play tested this quite a bit because it seemed like, yeah, whatever difficulty you were on, things got like close to failing.
And there was, did you notice that you could target the bombs as they were coming into your capital ship? You actually
realize
target
that.
the bomb.
I killed myself a few times.
Yeah.
Before you had shields anyway.
And there was times when like a bomb's coming into the capital ship, like against the Galate or whatever, and I'm like, and I just fly right in. I'm like, here you go, brothers! And I kill myself. I'm like, this is a game. Why am I doing this? But like I was 100% willing to sacrifice myself for the Galate. So when it died,
Interesting.
I was quite sad.
Oh. Yeah, before you got shields, I shot a bomb down and it killed me in one shot. I was like, oh, I guess I can't do that close. You need to be farther away.
So about the mission difficulty, there was... here's my shameful admission for this playthrough.
Yes.
There was an entire hour of gameplay that I just deleted the video. And it's because I had failed the mission on my previous run like 2 times. When I came back to the game, I failed an entire hour. And then when I came back to the game again, I failed like 2 times in a row and then finally beat it. And so I was like, well, this hour is pointless. And like I watched it and I didn't say anything funny. I didn't do anything funny the whole time. I was like,
What mission was it?
I don't remember, but it was fairly late in the game.
That's when you learn about how to use your communications.
I think that is what finally like fixed it. But yeah, it was so hard that I was just like, okay, I'm deleting this hour of Yosemite Sam swear words.
There's some tough missions, especially near the end. The one, which was it? The one where you have to protect. Is it the Hope while it's being repaired?
Oh,
the
yeah.
big student ship.
Mm-hmm.
That one took me a few tries. Because the Sheevan bombers were just nasty.
Well, and yeah, like you'd be fine. You're taking them out. You miss one, and it goes from like 72% to like 45. You're like, what?
Yeah, like
one person got through it. A third of the ship is dead.
Their bombs did so much damage.
Yeah.
It was rough.
I like the bomb effects, the big rings that would go up, or they'd have like the cluster ones. A lot of variety.
Yeah.
A lot of variety.
Like the cluster ones sounded so cool. Like the sound of the shock wave and then all the launch your countermeasure noise.
Yeah.
It was great.
So we've played Darksiders, we played Crisis. Darksiders for me was, oh goodness, I have to go play some more Darksiders. This I was like, I can't wait to go back.
Oh yeah, this has been the funnest one we've played.
See,
I love it.
I didn't have any nostalgia for it, and so I think that made it not quite as fun. But I think, honestly, the biggest piece was just that uncomfortable configuration of keys for my left hand. Because I remember just being like, oh, I could play that game right now, but my arm hurts. I don't want to do it, right? Like, and so I think had I rebounded or had I used a joystick, it would have been better. As far as the gameplay itself, I think it was fun enough that I enjoyed it and would have gone back to it.
And yeah. I found myself in the nostalgia trap quite a few times where I remember the game, I loved the game, but the painfulness of playing the game on modern PC with like what I'm used to is too much. I didn't have it here. Like there's been I tried to go back and play like the original Doom and Doom 2, you know, and I'm like, can't do it.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I don't have that. I don't mind going low def.
But the control schemes and the clunkiness and how it just doesn't run. I find myself
I just view it as an additional challenge.
It just gets in the way for me. It's like I love this game and I remember loving this game, but man, it's clunky and I can't stand it. I didn't have any of that here.
Yeah, same with me. Like everything felt very smooth, satisfying. Combat's really fun.
And I found myself wanting to go back.
Which is why I want to play Freespace 2 next.
We can do it. We've never done that. Granted, we haven't set much of a precedent of like what we play next, but I honestly am like, I want to continue the fight. Let's take it to the Sheevans.
Because I've played Freespace 2 once, and I don't remember it at all.
I've never played it.
I've never played it.
It got caught in, I think it was a very low performing game as far as like finances went. It got pulled because of copyright reasons. It was hard to get a hold of for many, many years.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I didn't play it for so long, is I didn't play it until they released it on Steam or whatever.
Well, when did it come out? Didn't it come out in 2002, which is...
It was a quick turnaround from the first one.
And that's like... Oh, really?
It was a very quick turnaround from the first one.
It wasn't that long after.
But it was
very quickly that it was taken off the shelves.
Yeah.
And not sold.
I think it was just a commercial failure because people kind of moved on. They moved to the mouse and keyboard style, and joysticks were kind of falling apart and
I could see that
by the wayside. It just wasn't a commercial success. I read some on it on Freespace 2 because, admittedly, myself as well, I was like, I kind of want to do Freespace 2 now.
Mm-hmm.
It is crazy to me to look at the amount of money that games make today and compare it to the amount of money that they made back then. So Freespace was a huge success. You know how much money it made? $4 million.
Wow.
That's 4 million with an M. And that was a huge success for 99, right? Sold 100,000 copies.
Wow.
Huge success. And it took like a year and a half for them to hit that mark.
Wow.
Well, I wonder now how much they have made since they have now put it on Steam and GOG.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they still even have the financial rights to it or if that's been sold off to subsidiaries or what. Like, I don't know how that works.
I looked up Interplay because I was curious. I thought they were dead and gone, but they still exist. They just haven't really done anything. They're remaking Descent, and that was the only thing I think. But you go to their website, and all it is just links to their like Twitter and stuff, and then it's like they haven't tweeted that much.
I think Interplay is still living on their laurels, right? So, for example, it just recently died, but I took my kids to Boondocks not too long ago, and they have that machine that like you strap into it, it flips you around. It's like a flight simulator or a roller coaster simulator, things like that. I did it with my daughter. I climb in there, running Windows 95, Interplay logo, and all of the Interplay graphics, and I was like, "This is still running today."
Wow,
that's crazy. So
but then it broke.
They're just selling to theme parks and.
It could be, right? Like, Interplay is one of those ones that amassed a whole bunch of IPs. I don't really understand the structure. It's not like they're a parent company.
Yeah, I was really
But they
confused.
have controlling interest in some way.
Yeah. Because, like, Volition is still alive and well. They're still making stuff on their own.
I mean, Agents of Mayhem, what was last year, year before?
Yeah. It did not do well, but I enjoyed it.
So here, the question of the day, will we see a Freespace 3?
Okay,
let's talk about it.
I say yes.
Is there a niche for this type of game today?
I say yes, because
so.
As much as Descent is a distinct entity, right? The gameplay is similar. The what people want is similar, and it was kickstarted. Descent 3 was kickstarted, and it's going to go live this year in 2019. And it just happened because people wanted it. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see something like that with Freespace, because there's a lot of nostalgia around it. It is one of those IPs.
And there has been things with like Star Citizen and is it
Elite Dangerous.
Elite Dangerous.
Eve Valkyrie.
Yeah, so there have been some. They're just sparse.
Yeah.
But they seem to still gather like quite a lot of hype, and a lot of people say, "Oh, good, I loved Freespace back in the day." That's often what you hear when they talk about these new ones. So,
give me a Freespace 3 with VR. Oh man.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think I might get sick of... Well, I don't know. I will say that this one was skewed. So this is the one bad thing I will say about their graphics, is that the 16:9 ratio made spinning horrible, right? So, like, you know how there's always that cone of perspective in all games a little bit at the very corners, right? But when you try to map a 4:3 game into a 16:9 game, that cone becomes like a fourth of the screen. It was real bad. And so, as much as spinning is a useful move, I tried to just stay oriented in one direction the whole time, because every time I had to spin, it just was ghastly.
Huh. I didn't notice that.
Mine, Freespace 2. Mine didn't have... My reses were high enough. I couldn't see what was happening, but... So I have to wholeheartedly say, recommend it 100%.
Absolutely.
Me too. And I mean, this is from me not having played it before, but that's also from a lover of video games that are retro that likes the low def stuff, right? If you're one that just likes the high def stuff, play it in Freespace 2. Maybe it's good enough. I don't know about that. But if you can stomach the older res, the older textures, absolutely recommend.
Yeah. It's... I don't know. It was a shot of nostalgia, but I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Well, and parts of it I think are still unrivaled today. Honestly, I haven't played a game where my teammates, the artificial intelligence for my teammates, or the artificial intelligence for the opponents was this good. Like, even I'm thinking of modern games like Rocket League, nowhere close to this good.
I wonder if part of that is being in a 3D space.
I think that has helped.
They're not bound to, ground and having to like track, exactly a path.
But even like, so take the ones where you have to fly around the bastion, right? If you tell them to go attack something on the far side of the bastion, they get around it and they go to it, right? Like they're smart enough. They don't just try to beeline for things like, and so that's a big one, right? Like,
or they try to go right through me.
Yeah,
to get to things.
They don't avoid you.
It's like, I want to get through. It's like, could you not?
Yeah. I was just looking at my notes now just to be sure that we had talked about everything that I wanted to talk about. And one of the things was just the nature of the Shivans. You maybe don't get a true sense of it, but basically you get kind of mostly through the cutscenes that are the ancients talking, how once they progressed to a certain point, they just went through the galaxy killing everything. And it wasn't until, they discovered subspace or whatever that the Shivans came in and wiped them out. And so then the very last cutscene of the game talks about how if the humans had been allowed to keep going, they probably would have won the war against the Vasudans. They probably would have kept expanding into space and killing other civilizations as they went along too. And so the Shivans are supposed to be this kind of thing, maybe, you don't know where they come from really, but it's kind of built into the universe that they come in and wipe things out once they progress too far.
You say that, but then in the cutscene where you see them, they're creepy spider creatures, so screw that.
Well,
they're just evil.
That was the other thing too. It fires a laser out of it, and then they never bring that up again. That's never talked about again. That was really strange. I didn't remember that happening.
Like the Cuddy Beam laser weapon?
Yeah. It's like, why do they have that? Why can a biological creature do that? Are they biological? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff
cyborg, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, they don't really talk about it.
I mean, the people the humans, the Terrans that landed there were almost cyborg as well, so...
Yeah. Here's just some general pro tip for life. If a ship comes in called the Lucifer, I'd run.
But you named it that.
Yeah,
I'd name it Lucifer. I'd name it
There's a big black and red thing that's scary.
Yeah, the big black red scary Satan ship.
Yeah. Anyway, Shivans are like the Reapers from Mass Effect, and I love Mass Effect, so I like that.
Mass Effect plug.
I have to talk about it once every video.
I don't have any great parallels game-wise to what it was, but it's well worth playing.
Joy.
I thought it was great.
Joy and happiness. That was my parallels.
I wouldn't say it was a joy. I was definitely frustrated frequently, but I think if you have a nostalgia for it, that'll push you over that mark and straight into joy. So.
Good.
There you go.
So, Freespace, The Great War. Play it.
It's a good one.
So, are we going to do Freespace 2 next?
I say yes.
Sure, why not?
Do we need to get your joystick, or are you going to...
No. I think...
Play with this.
So, for example,
you
playing Freespace 2 with the Freespace 1 missions, I think is a useful thing to let people see. But I also think that me playing the original with the keyboard layout is a useful thing for people to see, to say, hey, can I do that? Is it worth doing that? And me, having done it that way, I'm still recommending the game. It was still fun. It's still worthwhile, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
It's good to get both.
Okay, Freespace 2, pick it up. Let's do it.
Awesome. See you next time.
Ciao.